I'm 27, work as a software analyst, and I've always considered myself cautious, maybe even paranoid. That night, I was heading home after one of those long, thankless shifts that stretch until your brain feels like it's melted into your chair. I live in a mid-sized city where everything shuts down around midnight, so Uber has always been my fallback when public transit disappears. It was late October, chilly, but not freezing. The sidewalks smelled faintly of wet leaves and exhaust fumes. I remember telling myself I'd taken this route home 100 times before and nothing bad had ever happened. My apartment was only 20 minutes away, tucked into a quiet neighborhood I knew well, and I remember thinking, almost smugly, that I didn't even need the GPS. I checked my phone when I ordered the Uber, as usual. White noise podcasts in the background, my hoodie zipped up tight, earbuds in. The car was due in 5 minutes. I slipped outside and leaned against the brick wall of my building, the dim street lamp casting a weak glow over the wet pavement. My mind was half on my schedule for tomorrow, half on the cold nibbling at my fingers. It was just another ordinary night, or so I thought. I got into the car, a black sedan with tinted windows. The driver, a middle-aged man with a clean-shaven face and short hair, greeted me politely. "Hey, how's it going?" he said. I murmured a quiet, "Good," and that was that. I usually avoid small talk on these rides. I plugged my earbuds in fully, the muffled hum of traffic outside blending with my podcast, and sank into the leather seat. The streets were empty except for the occasional delivery van or late-night commuter. I watched the orange streetlights streak past as the car cruised along familiar roads. I remember feeling the comfort of routine, the same curves, the same stoplights, the same flickering neon signs above 24-hour convenience stores. It was calming. I noticed the driver glancing at me occasionally in the rearview mirror, but I've learned to ignore that. Some people just make eye contact out of habit. He was humming softly along to a song I couldn't place, tapping his fingers on the wheel. The car smelled faintly of old leather and air freshener. New car scent mingled with something that smelled like faint cigarette smoke, though I couldn't tell if it was recent or just clinging to the upholstery. At one point he asked, "Rough night at work?" I shrugged. "Yeah, just the usual." My voice sounded flat even to me. I had no energy for conversation. We passed a stretch of road with no streetlights, just the yellow lines and the faint outlines of trees. I glanced down at my phone to check the map, noting we were on the correct route. Nothing unusual. I thought about the apartment waiting for me, my cat probably asleep on the couch, and the sense of relief was almost tangible. Everything seemed normal, too normal in hindsight. That's when I first noticed him, the figure on the sidewalk. I thought at first it was just a pedestrian. He was walking along the edge of the road, head down, hoodie up, nothing remarkable. But then I realized we'd passed the same stretch of sidewalk twice in a row. I double-checked the GPS. The driver hadn't made any obvious wrong turns, but the figure kept appearing just outside the glow of the headlights, disappearing into the shadows, only to reappear further down the street. My heart picked up, but I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just someone walking home, or a jogger taking a roundabout route. "Hey," I said quietly, leaning forward. "Do you see that guy?" The driver didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the road. "What guy?" he asked finally, a little too casually. That person on the sidewalk back there. Seems like he's following us." The driver gave a short laugh. "Probably just walking the same route, nothing to worry about." I nodded, trying to convince myself. But there was a pit in my stomach. The figure's movements seemed deliberate, purposeful even. Every time we slowed at a red light, I caught a glimpse of him lifting his head slightly, just enough to see in the car's dim reflection. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the podcast, pretending it was just my imagination. But something about the rhythm of his steps, the way he seemed to appear wherever we went, was wrong. The car took a turn onto a narrower street I knew well, a residential road with high fences and dense trees lining the sidewalks. My anxiety spiked. I glanced in the rearview mirror again and froze. He was there, closer this time. Not on the sidewalk, but in the middle of the street, walking with a calm, deliberate pace. Is he, walking in the road?" I asked, my voice quieter than I wanted. "Who?" The driver didn't look at me, but I saw the corner of his eye twitch as he said it. "That guy," I whispered, pointing. He's keeping up with us." The driver slowed slightly, keeping the car just under the speed limit, and muttered, "Weird." I felt my hands clammy. The streetlights flickered overhead. Shadows bent and stretched unnaturally across the pavement. Every instinct screamed at me that this was wrong. My mind raced with scenarios I didn't want to think about. What if he was waiting at my apartment? What if he was planning to jump in when the door was unlocked? I considered asking the driver to stop, to pull over somewhere public. But the street was deserted. Even if we stopped, there was nowhere to go. My chest tightened, my breathing shallow. Then he ran. Not sprinting, but a smooth, controlled jog that matched the car's pace perfectly. My stomach dropped. He was intentionally keeping up. I tried calling a friend, my hands trembling, but my phone was almost dead. The car's interior felt like a cage. My mind replayed horror stories I'd read online, every warning about strangers following late at night. And then the driver spoke, low and calm. "Do you want me to take a different route?" I didn't even think. "Yes, anywhere. Just get me out of here." He nodded, taking a sharp turn onto a main road. The streetlights returned, and my pulse slowly began to settle. But in the corner of my eye, I caught a fleeting shadow on the shoulder, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. We pulled up to a 24-hour gas station near my apartment. I was desperate for witnesses, any sign of life. The figure had stopped at the end of the block, hands in his pockets, watching us. My legs felt like lead as I unbuckled my seatbelt. "Stay in the car," the driver said. His voice was firm, but there was tension under it I could feel. I nodded, fumbling with my phone. I dialed 911, hands shaking. The operator's voice was distant, bureaucratic. "Can you describe him?" I whispered, giving as much detail as I could. Dark hoodie, jeans, slow, deliberate gait. The figure hadn't moved. It was like he was waiting for something. The driver leaned over slightly. "Don't get out until you tell me. If he comes this way, I'll drive right at him." I swallowed hard, grateful for the presence of someone else. Minutes stretched into eternity. Finally, the figure turned and disappeared into the darkness. I stayed in the car, shaking, until I felt my legs working again. When I finally drove away, I kept glancing in the rearview mirror. The streets were empty now. My apartment building came into view, lights flickering through the trees. I parked, heart pounding, and ran inside without looking back. I reported the incident to the police the next day. They took notes, but never followed up. "Probably just someone wandering," they said. The Uber company offered a small credit and a generic apology. No real answers. I kept thinking about him, the way he matched the car's pace, the deliberate way he appeared and disappeared. It didn't make sense. There was no motive, no words exchanged, no interaction other than his silent, calculating presence. I avoided late-night rides for weeks. When I did use Uber, I chose busy streets, day shifts, and I never ignored the smallest flicker of movement outside my peripheral vision. My sleep was shallow. Every shadow in my room suddenly suspect. It's strange how something so brief can leave a mark. I didn't see him again, not in my neighborhood, not on my walks. But the memory of that deliberate, measured pace haunts me. I still replay it in my head when I'm alone at night, wondering what could have happened if I'd made a different choice. It's been over a year since that night. I tell the story only to friends who insist on hearing it, and even then, I leave out details that make it too real. Sometimes, when I'm walking home late, I catch a shadow at the edge of the street and my stomach tightens. I recently found a notification on my old Uber app, a rating request from that ride. The driver's name was still there, no photo. But beneath the stars he'd given, there was a note I don't remember. Stranger watching. Careful. I don't know if it was meant for me, a mistake, or something else entirely, but every time I think about it, I realize how small my choices made me, how vulnerable I was. And somewhere, maybe, he's still out there, walking the streets, measuring the pace of someone else's life. I've never felt safe walking alone at night since, and I don't think I ever will.